Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is about comparisons between some Chinese big block Chevy heads. Now, you'll notice that there's only 3 up here, but there's more than this as far as Chinese heads. So the ones that are left out for sure are Pro Comps. I don't deal with Pro Comps. Pro Comps, Speedmaster, they're the same head. I don't sell those. That's like the one head I won't sell just because of the quality issues. Now, I think they may have changed the castings to what this head is now, but I'm not for sure because I don't really sell them. The other one that's missing is Flowtech, and Flowtech is actually pretty close to Promax. They're not the same company at all, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. So what 3 heads do we have here? Well, this one right here is the Promax. It's a Promax 317 square port, rectangular port head. They actually have a smaller oval port one that's like a 290. But this is it. Now this as cast, all 3 are as cast. These are your cheaper options. So there's that's this head. This next one is an AFR Enforcer. It's their cheaper as cast Chinese head. And then this one has about a bazillion different names because it's sold underneath so many different titles, but it's all the same head. For instance, this one is from Skip White. They call it the Bravo head. But there's literally several other companies that sell this same head. And the thing about them is they say, well, it's the same head as the AFR. Well, today we're going to find out if they flow the same. So, and if that's actually true. So anyway, there is a bit of a price difference, but we'll get to that too. Let's start off with this Promax head. This is a 317cc runner, at least that's what they claim. It has a 2300 intake valve, a 188 exhaust valve. No, I'm not taking apart the head because I'm getting ready to ship it out. It's got a nice chamber. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's 119 cc's. It's got a nice exhaust port. Now, allegedly, this is a Chinese copy of the AFR 315 CNC head. Allegedly. I don't know 100% sure, but allegedly that's what it is. So if this, whatever it takes AFR heads on the 315, that's what these runs. So that's what the head is. Now the Flowtech head is just like this. The difference is they have a different seat alloy. They have a copper alloy and different seat angles. Now you can get this in 225 or 2300 intake valves from Promax. I don't know about Flowtech. The one thing I'll say, like the difference between the two is Promax will touch up the valve jobs on theirs. So that I have yet to have one of their Promax heads not seal as far as valve job. The Flowtech is actually a better seat material, but in my experience, the ones I've had, they don't seal. So you actually have to do a little bit of work to get them to seal up. Now, is that uniform for all of them? No, just the ones I've seen. As far as the port design itself, it's the same as far as I could tell. So really, you're just dealing with the only difference between the Promax and the Flowtech is seat material, valve, which ones they use, and springs, that sort of thing. Now, you might say, well, these are assembled in China. No, Promax are assembled in America, and they actually use good parts. They've got rev valves and pack springs, so it's good stuff. I definitely call that quality stuff, nice to use. Okay, that's theirs. Now, this is the AFR Enforcer. I'll warn you, I just got done doing a valve job. So it looks dirty, and it's not the same valve job that came from the factory because I didn't plan to film this until I got to this point. So because someone said, hey, this head's the same one as that one. Yes and no, but we'll get to that. These, it depends on who you look at. So if you ask, they are the exact same head. So the Skip White Bravo head and this AFR Enforcer head are the exact same one. So actually, when you look at it, this is the valve job you would get from the factory on the AFR. I have, of course, redone it since then because I have to work on it. It depends also on what company claims. I think AFR claims these are be 325. These claim to be 335. They're the same head, so who knows? I haven't CC'd them, and I'm not going to. They've got 119 cc chambers. I will show you all the exhaust ports in a minute when I flick the heads around, but they're like a square exhaust port. This one, I can't say it's a copy of any head. It's like a copy of multiple heads, kinda. So let me just show you this head because they really are the same head. So let me set the camera down and then I will move the head so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's the heads, the downward view. Now, granted, it's dirty. I totally get it. Like I said, I just did a valve job and I still have to do pork work to them, so you get the idea. But you'll be able to see. So this is the AFR. This is your Skip White / a whole bunch of different other people sell the same head. Pro header will also sold this head. If you look, they are the same, exact same. The valve job, by the way, was the same too. It wasn't any different. This valve job you see on this one was the exact same one that was on here until I modified it. Obviously, I've cut it different. You might say, well, you're worried about it sealing? No, it actually sealed up fine. It's what it was doing is it just doesn't flow very well. So of course I put my own valve job on it, and then I'm gonna do some work, because obviously you can tell around the guide on both of these, it's not good. Both of these are getting redone. This gives you a better view of the exhaust port. And what I mean by this also was, I can't say this is a copy of anything, because if you look at it, this one's cleaner, so I'll just show you. I don't know any head that looks like that. I've never seen anything else. So if the Chinese company copied something, I don't know what it was, because I haven't seen anything besides ProComp that has anything that looks like that. So maybe it's an updated ProComp. ProComp's the only one I've seen that has square ports like this besides the RHS, and I can promise you this is not like the RHS. So it really looks like a better version of a ProComp head, and that's what they are. So anyway, if you get the AFR head and this head, they are the exact same. So you get AFR Enforcer on this. Remember, this I'm just talking solely about big block Chevy. I'm not talking about the small block Ford, Chevy, or LS. Strictly a big block here. These are, in fact, the same head. So same casting whatsoever. They're exact same. But these ones right here won't have, of course, the AFR logo on them. And they're made by 1,000 different companies, have the same head, just different name that they call them. But what separates them is this, and this is huge because I flowed all three of these, and actually this one down here, which we'll get to in a minute. It's one that's been ported by someone. So I flowed all three of these, but the difference between, say, the AFR Enforcer and whoever you get here really is the valve. So, and it's a huge difference. So let me get the valves out so I can kind of show you. So here is the valve. This is the AFR valve. So essentially what you have, again, is the same head, just different valve train parts. In the AFR head, for sure, you're getting this. This is the same valve that they use in their AFR 305 head, which is their nicer head, and their 325 head. Anything that has your 225 head diameter valve, this is the same valve they use. They don't use a cheaper one for the cheaper head. It's the same valve. And what's great about it, it's a really good valve. You can tell here, this is seating on, look how wide that back cut is. And this is the exhaust valve. Same one they use on all their big block Chevy stuff, unless you get an Inconel. So really good valves. With the Skip White one, they actually use Urson valves, PBM. And there's nothing wrong with those valves. That's what this is right here. There's nothing wrong with them at all. But I would say as far as quality-wise, though, AFR valve is much more quality-wise than the PBM Urson. Not that there's anything particularly wrong with them at all, so don't get the wrong idea. But this valve costs considerably more than this valve because you could tell by the machining quality that's been done. This one doesn't have near as wide of a back cut as the AFR. Now the exhaust, though, it does have a back cut and the AFR doesn't, because we don't put back cuts on the exhaust. Typically that makes reversion worse, having a back cut, so we just leave it off. And it's also a nail head design compared to the more tulip design of AFR. So like, so big deal, whatever. Well, that valve cost right here, I think these are like 26, these are like 16. So it's $10 more per valve. So that's Skip White's. Now this head, this customer brought from me from somebody else that he found online, probably eBay, got it real cheap, and it has this valve in it for intake, this valve for exhaust. This has no back cut whatsoever. And not only that, I think it's more, it might be like a Manley type valve, because there's an angle that comes off the stem, it comes this way. These are typically 12, so you can put a back cut on it. Same with this, it might be 11. That one's really super flat, like a 9. So you almost cannot put any back cut on it because there's no material to put a back cut. So when you see the flow numbers, you're gonna see 3 different heads and you'll be like, wow, yeah, that hurt it a lot. So even though this is the same head, the valve train parts used in the head affect flow and horsepower. And you're gonna see how different they are compared to an actual good port versus these ports. Now, what we have down here is someone has done some port work. So I'm going to bring it up here so I can get a better view on the camera so I can show you. It's a Bravo head, so it's the same head as this one. They just did a little bit of port work, and we'll show all the valve. We'll show all the flow from all of them, and you guys get some more information. Okay, this is that Skip White Bravo head, which is the same head as this. Remember, they have like 1,000 different names, so you don't even have to call it Skip White one. You can call it whatever you want. There's a bunch of different names like Pro Head and whatnot. This one, the customer actually sent it to somewhere else, and they did what they call stage 2 porting, which I never understand stages of porting. I don't work that way. I just do basic port job, which is a valve job and blending, and the short side. And then you got your full port job, which means I'm gonna enlarge everything. I'm gonna do every bit of it. So there isn't stages, and I don't really understand it. I think the first stage would have been valve job, which I've said many times, the beginning of flow for port work is the valve job. When you're not doing the valve job, you're not getting the flow. You're gonna be severely disappointed. So this is ported all the way through. At least it's made contact all the way through, and you can tell they blended this guide, which looks like this to begin with. And same with the exhaust. They didn't touch the chamber, left this ridge here. Anyway, that's it. So it's pretty much run through. They narrowed some of the stuff down. For the record, do not take out that lump right here, which the camera light's not going to capture real well. That's a spring pad. You're going to hit that and you're going to break through. Can't be fixed easily. So there's that, and there it is. So now this one was flowed because this one actually was the Bravo head. It had the PBM valves. I'm going to show you flow numbers from all the heads so you can get an idea how much of a difference just the valve makes and how much better that Chinese head is, even though it's more expensive than this Chinese head is, and why it's better. Okay, here are the flow numbers. Now I'm gonna give you some details on this because it might look a little confusing at first. First off, they were all flowed on the same bore, a 4.310, 4310, common for a 496, 468 stuff. Flowed in the exact same manners. Now, when you look at the intake numbers, you're gonna see a cylinder 1 and a cylinder 2 on each one of them, right? What that is because a big block has a long runner and then it has a short runner. They do not flow the same. So I flowed both, the long runner and the short runner. Typically, most companies only advertise the long runner because that's the one that looks the best. All the exhaust ports are the same, so I flowed just one exhaust port. So let's get to it. This is the Promax right here. We'll just compare all the long runners first. And I'm only gonna, because there's so many, I'm only gonna compare the 400 number, but you could feel free to pause and look at this better. So I'll just hold steady for like 3 seconds in case you wanna pause and then examine them yourself. Okay. All right, so if we look at the 400, this is the Promax, 267. This is the Pro Header one, or Bravo. This is the same head, but this is with that flat face valve. So it could be a Pro Header, it could be a Bravo. It's not the Bravo because Bravo uses PBM, but it's the same head, just that valve. Okay, so not the Bravo valve, but it's the same head, stock. At 4, it's 257. Here's the AFR Enforcer, 275. And here is, now this is the Bravo one that is ported. So this truly is the Bravo head. It's got some port work. It's got a PBM valve, 266. So who's the best of this? AFR Enforcer. By the way, the Promax is the smallest one because these are like 325 to 335. All those, 317. So let's look at 6 now for the long runner. The Promax is 245. This one with the Bravo / Pro Header with the bad valve, 334. AFR, 334. And 340 for the Bravo ported with the PBM valve. Ouch. Now let's just do peak. We'll just do, actually let's do, looks like the best one there is an 8. We'll just do 8 because that's about where most radical street guys run. Promax, 362. The Pro Header Bravo with the bad valve, 349. The AFR Enforcer, 359. The ported is 361. All right. Now let's look at the short runners. We'll do 400, 6, and 8 again. So Promax, 267. The Pro Header with the bad valve, 258. The AFR Enforcer, 270. And your ported Bravo head, 267. Now for 6, 333 from the Promax, 319 from the Pro header with the bad valve, 325 from the AFR Enforcer, and 318 from the ported Bravo head. And then 8, our last one here, we have 344 on the Promax, 341 on the Pro header with the bad valve, 349 with the Enforcer, and 352 with the ported Bravo head. So just looking at the intake flow, you can clearly see this Promax is better. So this Promax head here outflows those. And not only that, it's about 20 cc smaller. So what's that mean? This thing is going to feel much stronger. It's got more velocity in the port. You put this on a 496, 454, whatever, this one will feel so much better than those. Will make more torque, will accelerate better than those. These ones are far bigger and flow only slightly better at some points, but most points do not. So that is a much better head as far as flow-wise and its power potential. Promise you. But let's just take that out. Here we have the 3 same heads, just different valves. This is why they could say, well, it's the same head. It's not the same valves. Look how much better the AFR Enforcer was than this valve, and then even this Bravo ported one. It's just better. It's because of the valve. It's amazing how much a valve plays into a part in this. Now, if we look at the exhaust, which we haven't got to yet, if you look at this, I'm just going to do peaks. 271 from the Enforcer, Promax. The Bravo with the bad valves, 280, 270, 285 on the Enforcer, and 278 from the ported Bravo. Again, those look relatively close, but if you look at the 400 number, 235, 230, 231, 227. Yep, Promax again. But the Enforcer still is better than those. Except for at peak, I guess, 284. No, yeah. Except for at peak, the bad valve actually outflows it there. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, they could be the same head, but the valve can make a huge difference if you talk about that head. The Promax, it's a good head. Granted, it's more expensive, but I promise you, for most of what you guys are doing, I'll put it this way. I can't ever see a scenario, 0 scenarios, where I would see this head, AFR1, Pro header, don't matter, ever beating this head. In any scenario in my mind, I just cannot see it. Torque, peak power, larger cubic inch, I just can't see it. There's so much wrong with this as far as compared to this. It's not in the same ballpark. I didn't take out the Promax just because I didn't have time, but they don't have all that garbage. It's just better. So yeah, you're spending more money, but it's better. But if you're like, look, you only got a certain amount of money, man. These are all the same, but that Enforcer one does move more air. So yeah, you could probably save yourself a little bit more bucks getting that one, but you're costing some power just from the valve. You're like, well, I'll just switch valves. Well, at that point, then you should have just bought the AF4 because it would have cost you the same. Anyway, just something to think about. Remember, I'm no Superman, and none of my words are God or gospel. So take them with a grain of salt and use them however you like. You guys take care.